More than a year ago, Nicholas Enrich, who at the time was an official at the United States Agency for International Development, wrote an internal memo warning about the consequences of Donald Trump and Elon Musk stopping foreign aid for global health programs. The memo warned that could lead to nearly 18 million additional malaria cases, 200,000 new polio cases, and millions of women and children cut off from basic health care needs. 13 months later, Nicholas Enrich says that more than 750,000 people have died, most of them children, as a result of Donald Trump and Elon Musk's destruction of USAID. In his new book, Into the Wood Chipper, a whistleblower's account of how the Trump administration shredded USAID, Nicholas Enrich describes a meeting with Joel Borchert and Ken Jackson, two of the people Donald Trump appointed to oversee the destruction of the United States Agency for International Development. He writes, I began to describe various life-saving components of USAID's global health portfolio, highlighting how we prepare for and respond to emerging pandemic threats, support the diagnosis and treatment of tuberculosis, malaria, and HIV, and immunize millions of children from the deadliest childhood diseases. I spoke for about 5 minutes, focusing primarily on our infectious diseases work and hoping to keep the attention of people who seem to have no experience or interest in global health. When I finished, the room was silent, the political appointees looking at one another in what appeared to be disbelief. The silence was broken by Ken Jackson, who chuckled softly and shook his head. Wow, there really is so much that USAID does that we never knew, he said. This is the story that needs to get out there. Joel, also smiling, chimed in next, echoing Jackson's amazement. I had no idea you did this, he said. As a Republican, when I think of USAID, what does in global health, I assumed it was just, abortions. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Joining us now is Nicholas Enrich, former acting assistant administrator for global health at the United States Agency for International Development. His new book, important book, Into the Wood Chipper, a whistleblower's account of how the Trump administration shredded USAID, is available today. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Thank you for the important work you did at USAID. Thank you for delivering this book, which tells us the story that is just so stunning and does fill in what I was actually supposing from the outside. I heard you describe on Morning Joe this morning the people who came into the agency from the Trump administration. You said you could divide them into those who were cruel and those who were buffoons. And that's the only possible explanation I could come up with watching it from out here about what they were doing.
Yeah, that's correct. I think especially the Doge side of things, we were mostly dealing with what I referred to as buffoons. They were uninformed, they were unqualified, they came in on a mission to destroy the agency without having any idea what it did. That example that our chief of staff of the whole agency, when he didn't know what USA did in global health, he thought that the only thing we did was abortions, which just goes to show how ignorant the leadership was of the agency that they were trying to destroy.
The grim outcome of what occurred was entirely predictable. We knew, anyone who's been to any of these countries that USAID serves has seen it in action. I've seen it in action in Africa. I've seen the lives saved right there at the local clinic with babies being brought in and being treated that never would have been treated any other way. It was all so predictable how deadly this would be.
Right. As you mentioned, over 750,000 people have already died. And again, it's important to note that those are unnecessary deaths. They would not have died if USAID had still existed. But I think it's just a large number. But when you think about the individual families that were involved, when you think about mothers or pregnant women who are unable to access emergency childbirth services because clinics were closed, or families who had to choose between which of their children to feed because USAID's food supplements were no longer available to them. It's those, multiply those stories by hundreds of thousands, and then we start to see what that impact really looks like around the world.
Nicholas Enrich, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We're going to want you to come back to discuss more detail of this. This important new book is titled Into the Wood Chipper, a whistleblower's account of how the Trump administration shredded USAID. This is the cruelest thing, the specifically cruelest thing that Donald Trump and Elon Musk did together.